So welcome to Albany County Direct. I'm your host, Albany County Executive Daniel McCoy. On today's episode, we're going to be joined here by Albany County District Attorney Lee Kindlon, who recently completed his first 100 days in office. And, before, Lee, I let you get into it and start talking, I do want to say, look, there's a lot of stuff on the statewide level going on about the DA's office, a variety of issues. And I've watched you come in the last 100 days, and, I remember a lot of people saying to me, they're going, oh, he's going to give the house away, he's not going to do anything. And I'm like, joking with him, I go, you do know he's a colonel in the Marine Corps, right? You do know his background, and then, you really, through your campaign, I say this to everyone, you have to have thick skin. And I watch them attack you for people who you represented, for things you've done. And I'm like, wait, that's what you hire an attorney for. You're innocent to proven guilty. And your job is to give them the best defense, to make sure your client doesn't go to jail or gets whatever they're being charged with. But I said to everyone, I go, wait a minute. I said, let's just skip the fact that he's a Marine, but let's just talk about his other side of the house, and let's talk about the legacy of his family, his father, and all them that are renowned for what they've done, the mentorship he's had, the experience he's had. But now he's going to bring that. I go, I'm a little bit more nervous on my public defender side, ultimate public defender side, because I go, now he's going to that side of the house, which he's fought with elegantly over the years and have prevailed time and time again. And worked, and I just want to let everyone know, he worked in our alternate public defender's office for years, and I'll get into that in a second. But now he's going to make sure his DAs are so schooled that it's going to make. We're going to have to make sure we sharpen our skill sets and we're ready to go at it. You're coming at a whole different point of view that they don't think about because they've never done that type of law. They're just used to prosecuting, not defending. So now you're going to bring that over there. And I said to our team, I go, we're in a little bit of trouble here. I said, we got to make sure that we continue at our great standards in our public defender's office, alternate public defender's office, because we have someone that understands our side of the house and how we're going to think at every case. And now he can bring it over to his side. And it's going to, I don't want to say it's going to be deadlier. They're going to be better trained, better open-minded to everything and understanding both sides of the house, which I'm not knocking attorneys, but sometimes you get tunnel vision because you've been a prosecutor for 20 years or 10 years or 5 years, or you on the public defender side and you have to get used to defending. So there's a variety of issues there. So I want to stop there because this is not about me. This is about you and your administration. But I do want to say, and we'll get a little bit into the campaign of last year, if you don't mind. If you don't want to, we don't have to talk about it. But I remember, when you worked for us in our office, you were part-time. And I can say this now because I think the limitation's over. He worked more than part-time. Lee did more as a part-time attorney in our alternate public defender's office than anything else. And, when he ran for DA back then, I remember because everyone's like, you didn't prevail the first time. And everyone said, you're going to fire him? You're going to fire him? I'm like, I don't pay him enough. And when he produces for us, I go, I can't get rid of this guy. And then you decide over time, move on. But the former DA prosecuted you because they said he was falsifying his time card. And I'm going to bring this up. And the best part of this whole thing was, at the end of the day, we shortchanged the money. So I would just make sure the DA has an accountant person in his office because it worked out for us. And at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, we actually owe him money. And we did. We owed you a couple $1,000s. And through that whole audit, I'm like, it was great. But I'm going to stop there. And I just want you to introduce yourself to let people know a different side of you and everything. Lee Kindlon.
Well, thank you very much, and it's really nice to be here. And again, we're on the St. Rose campus, or the former St. Rose campus. And Dan, what you and the county have decided to do with the facilities here, and we're in one of the rooms now. I'm just really excited for the future of Albany County and our ability to use these spaces to make everybody's lives just a little better. So thank you for that. I guess let's start 12 years ago. I ran and I lost, and it was a great education for me in politics. I did work as an alternate public defender, and that audit, that was certainly a criticism that somehow I wasn't doing the time. And then when the county counted up all my hours, it proved exactly what I knew, and that is everybody, and it wasn't just me, but everybody who worked part-time and for the county put in more than the timesheets ever showed. And, the investment I made for my clients, I took a full caseload just because that's what you're supposed to do. And but everybody who worked part-time obviously put in extra time. So I'm glad I was actually able to shed light on that issue. But I moved on. I eventually opened my own firm in 2014, and so I had been running a small business on my own for 10 years. And I remember, and you can still see this on my LinkedIn profile, it was like January 1st of 2024, I had kind of just realized that it was probably my fate that I was just going to be a private practice attorney for the rest of my career. And look, as you said, it's something that my family had done, and I made decent money. I could set my own schedule because I ran my own business, and I was happy. But in February of 24, the world kind of flipped on its head when my predecessor got caught up in a scandal of his own making, and really had a lot of tone-deaf responses to how he was using and abusing state and county resources. And it's amazing to think it was a year ago that I was out going door to door, but the reception I got from the voters of Albany County, it was great because everybody realizes 20 years in office is a long time, and maybe it's time for a fresh set of eyes. And so I ran and I won, and I remember that was the criticism, there's no way that Kindlon's going to come in and suddenly be a prosecutor. And look, I hit the ground. The people who knew me kind of know that whatever I set out to do, I try and do it to the best of my ability. So if I'm defending somebody in a trial, I'll do that to the best of my ability. But if I'm asked to be the chief law enforcement officer of Albany County, I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. And that's just a different set of responsibilities. Danny, I'm sure you're a great firefighter. I'm sure you're a great county legislator. But nobody's asking you to put out, I'm sure you put out a dozen metaphorical fires this morning, but no one's asking you to run into a burning building today, but you're a great county executive because the job in front of you is the job that you do to the best of your ability. So there's been there's some good-natured skepticism that I understood existed, but my approach to it was show up, do the job, ask the dumb questions. If I don't know anything, I want somebody to tell me, what's going on. And then through earnestness and hard work, I've been able to win a lot of skeptics over, from law enforcement to victim advocates and even members of the DA's Association who looked at me a little askance, but suddenly at the first DASNY meeting in January, I was welcomed with open arms, and then I was asked to be one of the point people, especially of the upstate DAs, on the amendments to discovery reform, which I was able to celebrate with the governor who came to our office on Tuesday morning to thank everybody in my office for all their hard work.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it was great. And they were excited. The governor's people were excited. We pulled it off. I'm excited about the governor's budget. I'm excited about the $400 million coming to Albany and all the opportunities. But one of the responsibilities that I know I have is to, and this is for every business who's thinking about setting up shop in Albany County, they need to know that they're going to have public safety. It's at the forefront of my mind and the 90 men and women who work for me. And your administration has been great, but now I know that we have to set the tone and let everybody know that this is a great place to settle, to start a business, to raise a family, and that's going to be one of my my biggest priorities going forward.
You said a lot there, but
I did.
I think what people have said to me, and they always say it to me too, right, what made you run. You ran before. You see people that run and then they go away, and there's people that just keep running for every different office. I'm watching it go on with some of the races here. They just continue to, to me, it's like you had a passion, right? You could have ran for a legislator. You could have done other things after that to stay involved, but you were focused on being DA. And I get that question a lot of people. They go, why do you want to run? And I said, it's a great question. I think he's passionate about that office, passionate about changing it. I go, but why? I'm not,
That's a great question. Why criminal law? Because truth be told, a couple of years ago, I started to get really burnt out being a criminal defense attorney. And so I actually went back to law school at night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I had my full-time job.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. I had my wife has an abundance of patience for me, and I've got 3 teenage boys.
I saw that firsthand with the boys and your wife. And I want to say this. I watched her on election night, primary night, and it was like watching my wife. They feel our pain, and people don't understand this. It's hard for our families when we're in office, about reading about their dads or reading about their moms, and it takes a toll because people don't realize. I was working last night till like 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, I can't. My wife's like, serious. I thought you were gonna start taking it easy, right? Even when I'm with the family, you're texting, you're calling, you get a phone call like you do. And without that support of your spouse, of your children's understanding, because they want your attention, they got a question for you, and you're like, I got to talk to this DA, I got this murder key. And you're like, yes, son, yes, right? How's that balance working out for you for your first 100 days?
So, and yesterday was a great example. I have a son who plays baseball, and so I drove to his game, and he was in Bethlehem, and so I drove out to Bethlehem, and I'm watching the game for a little bit, but I'm like, I got to get back to talk to the county legislature at 6:30, so I jumped my car at 5:15 thinking, this will be a quick 5-minute trip because who goes back into Albany? And of course, I get caught in that traffic jam, with the spill. And it took me an hour to get back down to Albany, and then I talked to the legislature, and then I get back in my car and I drive back to the high school to pick up my other. So, there's like this always push and pull between like who I am as a dad and a husband, and then who I am as this the public-facing figure of Lee Kindlon, the district attorney. And so, and my wife and kids have been through it because I've had some high-profile cases, and so they're at least understanding of the fact that like Lee Kindlon is a public figure. They don't. They don't give me any quarter. I mean, I've got 3 teenage boys, and so they're always busting my chops and.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, rightfully so.
I'm going to have to text him, give him some good intel.
Oh, yeah. I saw the bald man on TV last night. Yeah, thanks, son.
Oh, listen, I was eating dinner one night, and my kids looked up, and they saw me in the news, and they're like, hey, Dad, you're not that fat in person. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, and then they're like, your forehead's really shiny. Maybe you should have Mary, like, put makeup on you or something, And I'm like, never thought of that stuff. Right. And the stuff they say, it's crazy, but, like, I used to go to movies with my son. Once we tried to do something with him, and obviously my daughters too. And then he said, Dad, I'm done. I said, what? And he goes, every time we go, you talk to people going in, you're talking to people, this is our time. And I'm like, Ty, I promise you, I'm not going to talk to anyone. And I kid you not, this guy wouldn't leave me alone. I'm like, hey, call my office. I'm here with my son to watch a movie. And you're being nice because you don't want to be rude. And at the end of that movie, my son goes, never again. And he goes, I'm like, but we have an obligation to the people we represent, and unfortunately when we're out in the community with your families or you're out to dinner, people are going to the grocery store. My wife goes, I sent in a price chopper, what took an hour and a half? I go, I didn't get past the front door. And again, you can't be rude, right? That's what I signed up for, and I get it, and balancing it out. And then to switch gears, like watching my kids when they play basketball or track, I used to sit up and, like, if they're sitting on the bench, I'm like texting, going back and forth because it never stops. And they gave me hell for that. They're like, yeah, you're here, but you're on your phone. I saw your. And I'm like, really? You're calling me out for my phone being in my hands? I wanted to bring it up so people understand what you're going through. But, like, your first 100 days, what have you accomplished so far that you're proud of, and what are you looking to accomplish as you go into the future?
And this gets us back to actually the first question you asked is, what skills do I bring to an office? I have, these leadership, these organizational skills from being a Marine Corps officer now for 20 some odd years. So that's great. But also I have a lot of experience, day to day in working on criminal cases. So I've been able to sit with members of my office and both have the view from 1,000 feet and being able to figure out the best way to prosecute cases as a whole, the philosophy that our office has. But also when it comes to granularity, how to talk about individual cases and individual defendants and figure out the best possible solution for a case. And I can kind of switch back and forth. And I think the results are starting to show. For example, we have set up what's called the Restorative Justice Bureau, which gives people who deserve it that great second chance. Because, look, we understand that not everybody who gets caught up in the criminal justice system deserves to go to prison, for the rest of their life. We understand that sometimes people need a break, mental health issues, addiction issues. Even, and this is a big swing by the office, is look, we got young men caught in Albany with gun possession, and we're trying to figure out if every young man caught in Albany or Albany County deserves state prison for being caught with a gun. And I mean, there's a lot of questions about that. But we're trying to figure out the best way through, and if there's a way to give these kids an alternative to incarceration. So the Restorative Justice Bureau, it's new, it's being staffed up, it's run by Renee Murgis, who is just a wonderful bureau chief. She lives and breathes restorative justice, and that's going well. We've also started, or I guess restarted, the Financial Crimes Bureau, and there we're really looking into a retail theft. These retail theft rings, which everybody is affected by because, everybody goes into stores and sees the kind of
it's like a free-for-all
measures.
now, right? I mean, it's just people aren't afraid to steal anything, and security guards can't confront them.
Right.
And they just walk out and they take a picture of them, and then local cops got enough going on, and they're not chasing someone down. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
And this is again where these two issues come together, because you could be stealing food to feed your family, and we get that.
Correct.
But you also could be stealing, armfuls of clothes from Dick's Sporting Goods at the mall to resell in a bodega downtown. And frankly, the intelligence apparatus that we have and the judgment and the experience we have is we're able to tell the difference between the two people. Right. And so if you're stealing armfuls of clothes from Dick's Sporting Goods, you're going to get in some trouble. And so these retail theft rings, which operate as a revenue stream for kind of the more violent stuff that goes on in Albany, we know who the players are, and we're really starting to break down those rings and put some bad guys in jail and take them off the board, which is great. Also, we're really getting going on the scams against seniors, and I know we're going to work with the county to get something done on that. So. And I was at the labor breakfast this morning, but we're also getting spun up on wage theft and labor abuse cases, because that's and I said this, it's huge, and I
people
said
don't
this,
realize it.
No, if people don't get a prevailing wage, and if our unions are undercut, then what are we doing? We got to make sure that the hardworking men and women out there who are building and taking care of us are really are looked after. So,
well, I want to bring up something, because you let this out, and look, it's like inside baseball, and most people aren't going to get this. When you were taking office and you're in transition, and you hired a gentleman to come over for compliance, and I'm like, what's he doing compliance? And we were like, we always get, it's just because the old guard, every time a new position got created, we're like, what are they doing? What are they wasting money on? But you brought someone in to, look at what the former district attorney did to me years ago with the trying to charge me for all this other stuff and time and attendance. And we came out with this, Sue Rizzo came out with a report. We all had to follow it. And the most ironic thing was, since that, the only office that never followed it was the DA's office. Never followed any of the rules. He thought he was above the law. And it agitated me. I'm like, okay, hey, paper, you were busting my chops and fairly, getting information from the DA's office and the old controller, and you're one-sided, not being objective. And here this guy is abusing this and abusing every policy of the county, from procurement to bonuses to everything else, and no one was saying anything. And when you said that, you go, hey, I'm bringing someone in to make sure we follow the rules of the county. Because you got enough. People don't realize when you take over an office, you had an office that was broken, in my opinion. I'm saying this, in being county executive, office that no one was doing anything anymore. They weren't around. They were MIA on the job, and things were falling through the crack. It was aggravating, not just as me as county executive and the taxpayer, but my other departments that had to work with the DA's office is like, we can't get anything done. So when you brought them in, I'm like, this makes sense. You said focus on that, make sure we follow the procurement, make sure we do this. I will say this is the first time in history the DA's actually punch in and punch out now. You're following the rules and regs. The paper must have forgot all that. And then the bonuses. I remember, like I said this, when and yes, I endorsed Lee Kindlon last year and last May. Oh, my God, it's been a year.
It has been a year,
Oh, my God, now that you said that. But I was heated because this guy was like running Ruck's shop. One of his workers got $140,000 in money in bonuses. People were getting bonuses. And you came in and you said, hey, we're going to make this part of the salaries transparent, upfront. I don't have a complaint then, because if the legislature's seeing it and the taxpayers see what these men and women are getting paid and the justification, okay, that's what the money's there for, right? But when you're cherry picking certain people, like this guy Chris and other ones that are getting all this crazy money, and I'm not asking you to agree or disagree because I don't want to bring you down my rabbit hole. But when you see all that going on, it's aggravating. When he misspent seizure funds, to the tune of like $600,000, $600,000 to $800,000, and then apologized. And like I said this before, the editorial goes, "Oh, he apologized, move on." He sent people to prison for the same thing. And what's the example as DA? And sitting back, and I'll say this to the listeners of this, watching the last 100 days, I say this to a lot of people. They're like, well, you endorse Lee. I said, listen, I get behind a lot of people. It's not going to stop him from doing his job. If the DA has an issue with my office or has an issue with the county, he's not going to hold back. Just like with Sue Rizzo with the audits and all that. I'm like, audit, go ahead, Sue. That's your job. But again, there's a working relationship. You got to work together for the people of the county to do the best we can. Bring in, like we were saying, we got some announcements we're going to be doing with crime victims. We both do the same job. You do a little bit more, but we're going to put our resources together to better give back to that community that's suffering. That was your idea. I'd love to sit there and say we thought of this, but it makes sense. And I'll say this to the listeners: it takes egos to step aside to say, okay, is it about me or is it about taking care of the victims? And to see what and I know you're not even thinking about this your first 100 days in office, and I'm like, he's thinking of that stuff, and it should, and then I'm not surprised because I say to people, and I do like to joke with him because he's a Marine, I'm in the Army, and you do got your birthday coming up, November 10th.
Yeah.
To Monday, November 10th of 2025 this year, Philly, they're opening up the bar that they originate the Marine Corps. How do I know this list? Yes. How do I know this, people? Because Mike Lally, who's also a Marine in my office, proudly this morning told me the whole history of the Marine Corps because I was going to meet the colonel, and I should know the history of the birthday and how they opened up the bar where they started the first Marines, and I'm like, he's going to Philly.
Oh, wow.
And I just looked at him. I'm like, oh, I got to leave you and now go deal with him. But I'm not surprised, Lee, because I'll say this, because you've hit the ground running. People are like, well, he's kind of quiet. I go, oh, no, he's making changes. Yeah. And I said, it's going to be scary by next year's budget. I said, because I already know. I go, he's looking at things. He's going to manage that department. He brought people in not just to make sure we're following policy. He's brought financial people in to engage that office in a way it hasn't been engaged in a long time. And I'll say this. David, in the beginning, did extraordinary stuff. He was great. He lost his way. It happens. I think you say that when you stay in office too long sometimes. It's time to exit door left. And he should have a long time ago, and he probably would have left on a better note. I do want to commend you. And, to watch what you're doing, and I've said this country, being that the fact that we're only about, 345 million Americans, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at India, that's like 1.8 billion, 1.6, the biggest in the world, and then China, Russia, and we can go right down from there. We incarcerate the most amount of people. And I loved what you were saying earlier, because people think, I go, no, the district attorney's not going to let people walk. But there's alternatives, because sometimes, like you said, you got a low offense, might be a bad crime, whatever the reason is. You put them in state prison, they're going to get hardened, right? And I've talked to Sheriff Apple about this, because people sometimes go in there naive and come out very skilled set, or just you gotta make prison work, right? So they're joining a gang, they're doing this. Am I wrong on that? And I don't know, because I don't run a prison. I don't when they go in there, but it seems what we're doing is not working.
No, I agree with that, and I have over the course of my career seen mostly young men who go to prison, and then I bump into them a couple of years later after they've gotten out, and they're just different. And you really have to make that judgment call about whether or not prison is the right approach. If it's the last thing we can do, so be it. But then again, and this morning I had this conversation with an Albany cop, because we're on the elevator together. He's going up to testify in front of a grand jury, and I said, "Oh, tell me about this case." He goes, "Oh, it's blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that happened a week ago, right?" And he said, "Yeah, and you guys are already indicting it." I'm like, "Yeah, because we're moving. I mean, there is no, you get arrested, you do something dumb in this town, you do something dangerous." And the police chiefs have said this to me too. Like, they are grateful. They make an arrest, there's almost an instant response from my office, there's decision made, and we are, again and again, taking bad guys off the board, getting guns off the streets, working with Sheriff Apple and the Albany police, but all the police chiefs, and you see slowly but surely, and this is a military term, so you'll appreciate that. We are working as a force multiplier for the Albany police, who are down 80 men. So they're able to do their job better, faster, more efficiently, and it's really starting to show. And this is the busy season. Unfortunately, the warmer it gets, the more dangerous it can get. So we are vigilant, but we are trying to do this. And I'll give you a little preview, because we're already thinking about next year's budget. We're not going to ask for anything outrageous, because
I'm bracing myself, people.
Yeah,
I got my hands on the table.
Look, you and I'm sure, are both reading the national coverage and just thinking what's going to happen with some of these people in charge and how they're tanking our economy. Like, I worry. And the cutting of federal funds trickles down to the state, trickles down to the county, and so I'm trying to manage a budget and look forward, because one of my responsibilities now, I also understand, is as a steward of taxpayer dollars. So, I got to try and manage budgets just like you and I do at home.
Yeah, no, and well said. And as we wrap this up, and we could go on forever. Look. Is there anything that you want to say before we end this? Like, you got another 100 days coming. Just because you don't read about it in the paper, what you're doing, I see the extraordinary things you've been doing to change that office and the image, and working with people, seeing you out in the community again. Because people want to see the DA out in the community. They liked it when the former DA used to be out in the community. They like it when the sheriff's out there, I'm out there, Sue Rizzo's out there, Bruce Headley. They want to see us working with the mayors or the police chiefs, knowing that we're doing a job. What would you say to be the next 100 days? You don't have to get, just briefly, what you'd like to say to the listeners right now.
Well, the next 100 days, now that I have the routine down, now that I have what the office is capable of and what we're going to be able to do, and I don't want to give away too much, but I'm actually looking forward to incorporating more of my office into and some county resources to be able to bring what we do to more people. And you got some really nice space here on St. Rose, and I'm really thinking of moving my Community Justice Outreach Center up here, and so we can have a broader reach. We can help more people. There's there's the stuff out at Thompson's Lake. So, I really want to be able to see if you and I can start to share some services, and we can help more people. We can get the message of the DA's office out there about being pragmatic about how we approach criminal justice in this county. And then also, again, just keep pushing the message that, Albany is getting safer by the day. And we are open for business. And, because economic development in Albany County, with this money coming in from the state, with, and I'll say this, last week, and this made the news for a couple of days. A music label opened up on South Pearl Street. Right?
Yeah,
without fanfare. He didn't need the grants. He didn't need the big articles from the Times Union. Steve Reddy opened. He's been open for a couple of years, but. Steve is my brother-in-law. He's married to my older sister.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So
now you're in trouble. It's a story to you. Now they're gonna get you.
Oh yeah, and you look at Steve, you look at me. They're like, there's no way they're related. But he's been married to my older sister for 30 years. Like, I have a personal stake in making Albany, the South End, economically viable and safe, because my family's there.
Yes.
And if we can bring businesses in, if we can turn that into if it can see the renaissance that the north end of Albany has seen over the past couple of years, then then I can go to.
No, I agree with you. Albany has a unique.
Yeah,
they have a unique opportunity right now, and I was talking about this the other day. It's $400 million, but $150 million is going to the State Museum. Another $50 million is earmarked, so it's about $200 million. And the governor's team, economic development teams out there, wrapping it in there, and they're working with us. They're working with the mayor's office, the stakeholders. But I think they're going to control it, and I agree. We got an opportunity here to change the image of the city. And I said to the mayor, I'm like, look. I get your data analytics. I do data analytics all the time. Mm-hmm. People don't care. They want to feel safe. Right. And we need to change that image. We need to say, hey, we're open up for business. We need to change stuff. And I want to say this, too. I'm not leaving downtown Albany. We are shifting offices around. We're not leaving our presence. We can't all fit at the College St. Rose. There's some extraordinary stuff we're going to be announcing here in partnerships with a variety of people. But I got to let the ink dry. I got to get it done. I got to figure this out for the taxpayers and make it work. So I will say all that. And look, and I want to talk to you. I have my issues with the papers at time. I just want them to be objective. I want them to be fair. Yeah. And I was chuckling. I said this on someone's podcast I was on yesterday or the other day. I said I found it ironic. I said that the DA hired a PR person on the outside, and that made front page paper. And I'm not getting on the reporter, but then they brought David had Joe Bonilla for the last 6 years. And they're like, well, we report that. I go, yeah, but it's been going on for 6 years. You didn't say a word for 6 years. He made $27,000 a year, and he was his campaign manager, and he didn't pay him any money. And Mike Connors and all them got bonuses of $15,000 last year for working on David's campaign. Well, supposedly for working in the office, and I think he only worked 30 hours part-time. And I'm like, nothing said. No. And again, I want everyone held to the same standard, but I want to be objective. And I want people just even to look at your office, my office. We have relationships. It does us no good to fight publicly, privately. And then talked to the last DA for 5 years. No one knew that until we went on to the Paul show and said, oh, yeah, I don't talk to Dan. No one needs to know that, because we got to work together. We have an obligation, regardless of our egos or our feelings, regardless you picked the Marine Corps, I picked the Army, to make it work. And I want to say this to the listeners, because a lot of people misunderstand military people going back and forth. And they're like, and they're not in the military, like, you pick on the Marines too much. You got to stop. People are getting mad. I'm like, that's what we do.
Oh, yeah.
We do that in the branch service. The only thing I never say is we got a nicer uniform, we're tougher. I've seen them TikToks, and I'm like, that never works out well for the Army side when they get on the Marine Corps and they're like, this is where we sit. Or actually, we're changing our PT test again, I'll call it.
Oh, wow.
But they got rid of the medicine ball, and someone put it in a box, said, well, this is what we do with our used equipment, sent to Marine Corps. I'm like, I don't think that's going to go over well for us, right? But it's something we do.
Oh, and, yeah. My wife's brother's been in the Army. Like, he went to West Point, Special Forces, anything you could want, this guy's done. And I needle him endlessly. And, of course, I have no right to needle this guy, but, it's just fun. And he busts my chops as well. So, yeah, there's nothing something different.
I know, and I just want to say, everybody, and people that know me, like, we got enough stress, and sometimes when you're out and you're doing something, you can have a little fun and poke at each other. It works. I like poking at Apple a little bit too much. And one of the jokes was, I said, when Mayor Jennings left being mayor of the city of Albany, they shipped his tanning booths to the sheriff's department, and I go, my electric bill is going
laughing.
through the roof, right? And they some lady put a complaint and wanted to know how much electric bill. I'm like, I was kidding. So I got to be careful sometimes too. My bad humor gets me. But I do want to say, Lee, this is great. We're going to look more to do this. I'm going to encourage you to do your own too. To really get, we have an obligation to get our message out to the people to the best of our ability, objectively. Not saying I'm always right. You're not always going to be right. We're not always going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes. But we're trying and keeping us honest. And that's one thing that was an argument I had about the podcast on. I go, look, I think the TU does have a role, that we need them in government to keep us honest, because when the papers and the stories aren't being written, people get a little stupid. I like it. I just like them to be a little bit more objective, like it used to be back in the day. I remember fighting with Carol DeMar, and she had a photographic memory. She's like, no, Dan. Yeah. May 2nd, 2008, you said this, and I'm like, oh my God, how did she even, And I'm like, she, again, it was objective. The reporters were objective and, tough, but fair,
sure,
right? And that's all we want. But I will say this to the listeners: please tune in more. Turn into Apple Music, Spotify. You can subscribe to this. If you missed it, you can get updates. I do want to say to our District Attorney Lee Kindlon, it's been great watching you for the last 100 days, and I look forward to the extraordinary stuff you're going to do. And I want to say to everyone, thanks for listening. This is Albany County Direct.